Dust filled her mouth. Her legs shook. Clara had not eaten in 2 days, and the street of Red Hollow spun slow in front of her eyes. She saw the rich man on his horse. Big hat, clean boots, eyes like cold iron. Every person on that street stopped to look at him. Then they looked at her, torn dress and all, and turned their faces away, the way you turn from something broken you don't want to fix. Clara did not turn away. She walked straight toward his horse. A woman near the store gasped. "What is she doing?" she whispered to the man beside her. Clara stopped right in front of the horse. She looked up, not down, straight into the rich man's eyes. Someone laughed behind her. "That poor thing thinks she can just walk up to Jedediah Stone," a voice sneered. Jade's horse stepped back, startled. He pulled the reins tight and stared down at her, one eyebrow raised. No one walked up to him like that. Not beggars, not even his own men. "You've got some nerve, girl," he said, his voice flat and hard. Clara did not flinch. Her stomach growled loud enough for him to hear, but she stood tall anyway. "I don't want your pity," she said. "I want work." The crowd went quiet. A few men chuckled under their breath, waiting for him to send her off like all the others. Jade leaned forward on his saddle, studying her face like he was reading something written there. Something about her eyes was different, not weak, not scared. "Can you cook?" he asked. The question hung in the hot air. Clara's heart pounded so hard she thought he might hear it too. She lifted her chin higher. "I can," she said, "better than you know." Nobody laughed now. Jade said nothing for a long moment, just looked at her like he was deciding something that mattered more than food. Then he reached down his hand. The kitchen was dark and dirty. Old grease stuck to the walls. Clara stood in the doorway and felt every worker's eyes on her, cold and doubtful. "She won't last the night," a man muttered, not even trying to whisper. Clara said nothing back. She tied her hair, rolled her sleeves, and got to work. She had almost nothing to cook with. Some flour, a little meat, wild onions from the creek, a few dried peppers left in her old bag, but her hands moved fast and sure, like she had done this 1,000 times before. She hummed a soft tune while she stirred, a tune only her mother used to sing. When the food was ready, she carried it to the long table. The men sat waiting, arms crossed, hungry but doubting. The first man took a bite. His mouth stopped moving. The second man took a bite. His eyes went wide like he couldn't believe it. Soon the whole table went silent. Forks moved fast. Nobody spoke a word. Jade sat at the head of the table, watching. He lifted his fork slow, almost afraid to hope. Then he tasted it. His breath caught. For 1 second he was somewhere else, his mother's kitchen, long gone now, warm and full of life. He blinked hard and cleared his throat so no one would see his eyes shine. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" he asked. Clara stood by the door, hands folded. "My mother taught me," she said softly. "She said food made with love heals a tired heart." Nobody laughed at her now. An owl called outside in the dark, and the whole house felt different, though no one could say why. But not every face at that table was soft. Near the shadows by the door stood Silas, the foreman. His jaw was tight. His eyes stayed fixed on Clara, narrow and sharp. He did not smile, he did not eat. He only watched, and something ugly began to grow behind his eyes. Weeks passed. The ranch felt warmer now. Men laughed at the table instead of grumbling. Jade smiled more, and his tired eyes had light in them again. But Silas watched all of it with hate growing inside him. One night in the barn, he leaned close to the other men. "She's hiding something," he whispered. "No poor farm girl learns tricks like that. Maybe she's a witch. Maybe she's poisoning him slow to steal his ranch." Some men laughed it off, but others, tired and superstitious under the wide dark sky, began to nod. Then it happened. Old Tom fell sick after supper. His stomach twisted with pain. He shook and sweated on his bunk. Silas saw his chance and grabbed it fast. "She poisoned him," he shouted loud enough for every man to hear. "I told you, that woman is dangerous." Fear spread through the bunkhouse like fire through dry grass. Men grabbed their hats. Some moved toward the door, ready to march to the house and drag Clara out. Inside the kitchen, Clara heard the shouting. Her hands shook as she gripped her apron. She had faced hunger before. She had faced being alone. But she had never faced a mob's anger rising fast in the dark. Jade stormed onto the porch, his face like stone. "Enough," he roared, and his voice cracked across the yard like thunder. "Before you point fingers, I'll look at the man myself." He knelt beside old Tom. He checked his eyes. He felt his hot forehead. Then he spotted something small on the ground, a torn wrapper from wild berries, the poisonous kind that grew near the creek. "This came from berries," Jade said, his voice firm. "Not from supper. Clara had nothing to do with it." Silence fell over the yard. Shame crept onto the men's faces, one by one. But Silas stood at the back, arms crossed, jaw tight. He said nothing. He only watched Clara through the window, his eyes burning with a plan not yet finished. Silas was not done. He knew the big cattle auction was close. Buyers from far towns would come, and Jade's whole year depended on the feast that day. If the food failed, everything could fall apart. That night Silas crept into the kitchen. He swapped Clara's good spices for old, spoiled ones. He smiled in the dark, sure this time she would fail in front of everyone. The next morning Clara began cooking, unaware of the trick. She tasted her sauce and stopped. Something was wrong. It was bitter, sharp, ruined. Her heart pounded. The buyers were already riding up the road, hours left, maybe less. She could have cried, she could have given up. Instead, she closed her eyes and heard her mother's voice in her mind. "When one path closes, child, look for what the earth still offers you." Clara ran outside. She gathered wild herbs from the field, sweet berries from the bushes, honey from the old hives, fresh milk from the cows. Her hands shook, but her heart stayed steady. She built a whole new feast from nothing but the land itself. When the buyers arrived, tired and dusty, they sat down not expecting much from a small ranch kitchen. Then they tasted the food. One man closed his eyes and smiled. Another asked for more. An old rancher said quietly, "I haven't eaten this good since I was a boy on my mother's farm." The auction became a triumph. The buyers paid more than Jade had ever earned. Word of the food and of Clara spread fast through the whole county. That evening, 2 workers told Jade what they saw, Silas near the spice shelf the night before. Jade found him packing his things. "You tried to destroy her," Jade said, his voice low. "Leave this ranch, don't come back." Silas rode off into the dark prairie, gone for good. Jade walked to the kitchen, where Clara stood watching the sunset. "You saved this ranch," he said softly, "with courage." She smiled. "This ranch gave me a home." Jade stepped closer. "Maybe," he said, "it could be more than that."